I've put together some information regarding the supply chain attack that recently occurred from the group Black Matter. And this is something that you're going to find interesting because there's a lot of info out there from years past about why all of this is such a threat to our food supply. And while digging through the information, I also found some possible links to the cyber Polygon event that occurred back in July. So in this video, we're going to talk about the recent cyber attack on the supply chain and why you should expect this threat to exponentially grow over time. Hey everybody, it's Magic Prepper, and today we're talking about the recent cyber attack on the supply chain and why it's a threat to the food supply as a whole. This is something we need to pay attention to. And when I was going through the information surrounding this whole concept, I found some interesting intel that I felt I needed to share with you, and some possible links to the cyber Polygon event from back in July. So, if you're worried about preparing for what's going to eventually happen to the supply chain, especially in the sense of an overall crash, then hit the subscribe button below because I'll try my best to give you as much of this information as I can and bring it to your attention when I find the time to be pertinent. And right now I do, okay? So here's what we need to understand. Recently, New Cooperative Incorporated was attacked via ransomware by Black Matter, which is a hacker organization. They're being held ransom from their systems for $5.9 million. These attacks are effective and they will increase because they usually work, and a lot of these companies are easy to access due to the types of software that they're using right now and the fact that a lot of companies do not invest enough into cybersecurity, all right? This attack is expected to disrupt the supply of grain, pork, and chicken. That is huge when we're already dealing with shortages around the entire market. So understand what a threat this is to the food supply, because it was that easy to disrupt huge amounts of pork, chicken, and grain to the rest of the market by attacking one single co-op. So here's what you need to understand. When it comes to co-ops, what does that mean? Well, obviously it's a group of farms that come together to operate as a singular unit, all right? There are 2 million farmers in the United States of America that belong to a little more than 2,100 co-ops. So you can understand just how many farms are represented by each co-op. And you can crunch the numbers on that one, but I guarantee you it's a lot. So it's no longer about just attacking an individual farm. As long as you get to the co-op, you get to thousands of farmers all at the same time. And this whole situation with New Cooperative Incorporated is no different, okay? There are 1.2 million co-ops around the world. So understand how fragile all of this is when you apply it to the food supply, and you can see what a threat this is for us to need to prepare for here in the future, because things are going to increase. These attacks will keep occurring because not only are they effective in getting what the hackers are looking for, but they're easy to pull off due to the use of things like cloud-based software, okay? And when these farms are using this software, it's generally listed under the category of precision ag tools. And what are precision ag tools? They're technologies developed to make farming more efficient. So it's for your guided equipment, it's for your remote sensing, and of course for your data collection, all right? So, in 2018, the Department of Homeland Security put out an article labeled Threats to Precision Agriculture, where they identified key categories where these threats were coming from. And this is something you need to pay attention to because agriculture is huge. Anything goes wrong in that department and people begin to starve. And everything goes south very fast when people don't eat. And this is something you need to understand and why this information is so important, okay? The first threat that they identified to precision agriculture, right, was confidentiality. And here's what they described the threat being originated from, okay? The rise in DSS and farm info management system apps built by startups that outsource their programming opens the doors to more attacks and theft of data, because that's what the purpose of a lot of these programs is, to collect data to then turn that data into maximized yields. That's the entire point. Well, cloud-based apps often have security issues because they're accessed from anywhere. Obviously, there's no specific server that has to be accessed when it's cloud-based, okay? Now, this is all part of just where things are heading. And unfortunately, by trying to make things more user-friendly and more efficient, a lot of doors have been opened in the sense of maliciousness. New Cooperative Incorporated uses a program called Climate Field View. And just so you're aware, I'll put a lot of this information as well as this DHS report in the description below, as well as a pinned comment, so you can check the sources for yourself and understand where a lot of this conversation is going and why it's such a concern for us here in the future, okay? Climate Field View is basically a cloud-based program that brings your entire farming operation to your fingertips, where you can use it on your phone, you can use it on your iPad, your computer, whatever you want to use it on, okay? Of course, that's good, it's convenient, it brings everything right to the forefront where you need it, okay? This is one of the programs being used by New Cooperative Incorporated. It's very similar and extremely, what's the word, competitive with another program called Ag Tools, okay? Ag Tools has the same exact concept behind it. They want to take your farming data, collect it all, and put it back into a package that helps you maximize yield and earn more profits. Well, Ag Tools is part of Microsoft Azure, right? Because it's a startup, just like what DHS was warning us about. And Ag Tools, as part of Microsoft Azure, is part of a cloud-based global client that helps startups via Microsoft to gain access to what they need in the sense of hosting and allows them to put their programs out there for the market to be more accessible, okay? But this is a global hosting service, which means the access is from all over the planet. Understand where I'm going with this, okay? Interesting thing about Ag Tools, along with a lot of other precision ag tool related companies, is that they were part of the Cyber Polygon event. Yes, they were listed as an actual participant on the page that tells you who was actually willing to put their name out there, as well as some other companies from other countries, as well as large food brands like Barilla were all listed on their site. Here's the thing you need to understand, okay? Over 200 participants signed up for Cyber Polygon, but most requested to remain anonymous. Something that we can assume, just based on the way that markets work and competitiveness in the sense of businesses fighting for the same clientele, is that a lot of other ag tools or precision ag tool related companies signed up for Cyber Polygon because they are in control of some extremely valuable and sensitive data that has a lot of different uses to it when you put it in the wrong hands. And when I saw that Ag Tools was part of that event, and I understood that New Cooperative Incorporated used a similar program called Climate Field View, and that these cloud-based, app-based programs were warned about via the DHS back in 2018, I have a feeling that a lot of different co-ops around the country as well as the world have opened themselves up in some way or another to a back door that they're not aware of. And this is concerning because this directly affects our food supply, especially when we talk about the other key threat categories put out by the DHS. What are those exactly? Well, the next one is integrity, okay? Intentional falsification of data to disrupt crop or livestock sectors. Understand, by manipulating the data that's being produced to these farmers and these co-ops, you can actually ruin entire supplies of crops and entire herds of livestock overnight by just changing the data. There's a lot of things that data can do that you might not be aware of. And by changing some numbers and fudging some errors and changing schedules when it comes to feeding or rotations or when it comes to watering schedules and everything else related to what that data controls, suddenly you can ruin entire productions. And that's easily done via the same back doors that are being utilized via precision ag tools, okay? And the third key category that you should definitely be aware of is availability. And one of their main examples of this availability situation being a key category of threat for precision ag tools is timing of equipment availability. Basically losing your access to the equipment you need during windows of opportunity when it comes to agriculture. What I mean by that is for harvesting or for seeding, there's a lot of different time windows that you have to hit in order to be as efficient as possible with farming that you might not be able to hit if the equipment is taken offline. And according to the DHS, that's a real possibility for this equipment that's all guided, right, via GPS and has remote sensors and everything else related to cloud-based apps. If it gets accessed in the wrong way and shut down during a time of necessity, especially during planting or harvest, suddenly you don't have a crop. Suddenly you don't have a yield. And all of this is extremely accessible to these people, as we're being shown right now via the New Cooperative Inc. situation. And even for them, this is really bad because they've done what they could to put the right security protocols in place. This is not something that's happening to a bunch of farmers who just didn't know cyberspace was a scary place. In fact, in an article labeled Data Security on the Farm on myfarmlife.com, which was published June 27th, 2014, okay? New Cooperative Incorporated discussed their security measures when it came to precision ag and the data surrounding it, okay? And it's a serious task to these people to protect the data of the farmers. Why is that? Why is this so important? Well, I told you all the key threat categories according to the DHS relating to these tools, all right? You can see how easily things could be disrupted via any of those categories. But yield, seeding, spraying, and fertility information is generally not sold or given to third parties. It's sensitive information from thousands of farmers. Data is the new gold. Any data of value is going to be targeted, and that data is going to be ransomed if there's a feeling there that it can be reciprocated on. And this is something you need to understand, because all these farmers have put very sensitive data into these data collection apps via the co-ops that they've signed up to work with. And a lot of that information is supposed to be secure. However, I have a feeling it's not as secure as anyone is being told that it is, especially when the DHS felt it necessary 3 years ago to produce an article to let us know what these threats are and how insecure it really is. So keep in mind that even though a company like New Cooperative Incorporated took data security extremely seriously, even as far back as 2014, and then in 2021 was hacked and had all their data held for ransomware, and I believe upwards of 650 employees' personal data was breached. This is all going to keep happening. This is all going to keep moving forward as more and more farms are utilizing precision ag tools to try to maximize yields, maximize profits, and eliminate waste, which is all things that any farm should want to do. However, the risk involved at this point has become very high, as we're seeing unfold right before our eyes. And is the cyber Polygon link verifiable? You can see that there are other ag groups, especially in the sense of precision ag tools, involved with that test. And we know that a big part of that test was testing out your security solutions to see whether or not they held up. What an interesting amount of information that could be had from said test that somebody who had access to that information would be able to utilize in the future to disrupt things like the food supply. And understand that when the food supply is what feeds millions of people in a country, billions of people around an entire world, if it can be held for ransom as an entirety, do you understand how powerful that would be? Do you understand that the people who are doing these attacks right now do not have our best interests at heart? And in fact, they're only doing it in order to have financial gain. In these situations, how valuable would access to the entire food supply be? And how willing would a country be to get rid of that problem before the masses begin to starve? This is why this is so important, because this is really happening. This isn't just a what-if scenario that we talk about in the prepping community, like, well, there could be an asteroid, or what about a giant earthquake, or huge super volcano. This is actually happening right now. And it's something that a lot of people aren't going to pay attention to as much as they should, because it lives in the realm of cyberspace. It's not physical. So it's not as easy to latch onto as something that you can watch on the news. But it is something that we know will happen again, as it has already happened before. And when these things have happened in the past, I've even told you that they were going to keep happening and become more frequent. And here we are now, and you're seeing that this is really where we're going. So prepare for what you can now. Understand the disruptions are going to get worse, and they're not going to get better. And as more and more different industry sectors move into cloud-based apps for controlling their data, the more and more accessible that data becomes, and the more and more it can be ransomed when it becomes valuable enough in order to do so. That's what I wanted to let you know about. This information is important, and the fact that the DHS was concerned enough about it to put out a report as to key threats surrounding the whole concept. And the fact that all of this happened, even though companies like New Cooperative Incorporated already took proper security measures in order to try to avoid these things in the future, none of it seemed to work. And it is interesting that so many of these ag tool style companies are involved with things like cyber Polygon in order to harden their defenses. When in reality, it much more feels like giving the valet the keys to your car and hoping it's still parked in the parking lot when you get back. Information for you. I wanted you to have it because if you have this type of intel, you can be better prepared when you understand what's really happening out there. So I want to hear your thoughts on it. Leave it in the comments below. Tell me what you think is happening out there in the world of food supply chain attacks, cyber attacks regarding everything in the sense of the supply chain itself, and let me know if you have any other questions about this scenario. There will be the information in the description as well as a pinned comment. And without anything else to say about this whole situation, that's going to be it for Magic Prep.